Over the last several months, Idaho Reports has followed discussions between community members and local library districts across the state and what might come next in the debate. In early 2022, the Bonners Ferry Library began getting complaints about children potentially accessing obscene materials from their shelves.
Our Board of Trustees received from a member of the community a list that contained about 400 books that had been being passed around the entire state of Idaho, and wanting to make sure that none of those books ended up in our library.
Some of those books included well-known titles like Genderqueer and Sex is a Funny Word.
We don't have any of the books on that list, but on that list is even a book of who was Frederick Douglass. So all of the books on that list are either LGBTQ+ themed, critical race theory, or Black Lives Matter.
Libraries already have collection policies in place that help guide them on which books to add to their shelves.
It's very important to note that we don't have these titles in our collection. We don't have any intention of adding, I would add who is Frederick Douglass without even a hesitation, to be honest. That's a great series of books. But some of the more controversial books, and it is just because we are a conservative community, and I try to be sensitive to what is going to be read here. We have a limited budget and we have limited shelf space. So there's also that fiduciary responsibility. If I get a book in that's going to sit there, it comes out of our budget and it takes up our shelf and nobody's going to read it. Well, that's counterproductive.
We do consider, the popularity of these titles, the authors, when it was published, if it's relevant, and I think there's some things today, and we've all seen that we aren't as comfortable as talking about anymore, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have an important historical significance. And so we do look at those works as a whole if we were to get, any kind of, challenge or a reconsideration request.
And if a patron wants materials removed from the shelves or moved to a different section, libraries have a process to consider that request.
So we relook at all of our policies every year, make changes as needed, consult with outside areas as needed, and we're going through our policies right now and doing that. But there is a process where, they would fill out some information about, what material they would like to be reconsidered, why they think that. And then there is a committee that goes through to, read over that, read that cause, and then that patron, of course, does receive word back on what that decision is.
But sometimes patrons don't agree with the outcome and aren't satisfied with the process itself. That frustration has come up during Meridian Library board meetings.
Get out! The LGBT community to groom our children. Shame on all of you! Shame!
When we, whether as parents or simply as concerned citizens, try to broach the issue of graphic sexualized materials in our library that seem to be targeted towards our children, we are impeded by a mountain of bureaucracy that will make any normal person's head spin. When we speak out, we are referred to in the most uncharitable terms. We get labeled as extremists because we want to protect the children.
They want us to act as a guardian or in some sort of parental capacity. So what I told them was we can't do that. First Amendment rights are clearly defined by the Supreme Court to extend to children. So while you can restrict access to materials for your own children, to ask a library or a librarian to step in that capacity when we're tax funder paid. Now I'm a representative of the government, and you're asking me to infringe upon a child's First Amendment rights. That is illegal. I cannot and will not break federal law. That fell so flat. That was so inflammatory.
This conflict isn't unique to Idaho, and it caught the legislature's attention. In 2022, the House passed a bill that would hold librarians criminally liable if they allowed children to check out materials deemed obscene. That bill didn't get a hearing in the Senate, but this year a bill to make libraries, not librarians, liable in civil court passed both the House and Senate. Governor Brad Little vetoed that bill, but had it passed, it wouldn't have just affected libraries' budgets, but their insurance policies as well. And that's by design, according to Blaine Kanzati of the Idaho Family Policy Center, one of the bill's major supporters.
Now, here's where things get kind of cool with the way we've designed this bill. Insurance companies don't want to pay out damages. They don't want to defend their clients. And so what they will do is they will change their policies. The policies that the schools or the libraries are required to abide by if they're going to be insured by the carrier. And those policies are going to say, hey, you have to remove these books, right? And it's going to be the insurance companies that are going to create the policies that end up driving the schools and driving the libraries to finally pulling these books off the shelves because they don't want to be exposed to liability. And here's what's going to happen. If a school or if a library keeps making this material available to kids, they're going to lose their insurance coverage. We've already seen that up in Boundary County,
The bigger insurance policies that cover governmental entities, and those in the private market, we've been told can go anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a year. So when your annual budget is just under $500,000, that's a significant portion of your budget that now has to be allocated to just being able to keep the doors open.
The library in Bonners Ferry ended up keeping their state insurance, but not their director, who resigned last year after months of the controversy.
It's difficult when you can't have a conversation with somebody and logically explain what you're doing and still be called a liar and a groomer and a pedophile. It's just, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted to be a library director. I wanted to work with this amazing staff. I wanted to settle into my community. I didn't sign up to do this to be afraid in my front yard.
In his veto letter, Governor Brad Little specifically cited that civil enforcement mechanism, which allows parents to sue for $2,500 if libraries don't take reasonable measures to prevent children from checking out materials deemed obscene. Little called it a library bounty system.